Hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 21 of the Think Like a Marketer show. I'm Randall Chestnut, and we enjoy interviewing marketers, entrepreneurs, and innovators on the show to find out why they think so differently and what tips, tricks, and resources that they can give and share with us that will help us just a little bit more. We have a very distinct guest today. It's the first guest of the Think Like a Marketer show that's actually been on twice. So we almost called it 21 and a half. This morning, we actually had a great show, and Facebook decided to delete the live show. Can you believe that? So here we are back. He was gracious enough to give us another 45 minutes of his time. But I think both him and I are doing what we love. And when you love what you do, and you usually do what you love because it helps others and it makes you feel good. And that's why he's doing it. And he's taking a little time away from his 4 kids. So I want to introduce everyone to my friend, Mr. Keith Knapp. Keith, thanks for coming on again. I know that's a debacle that's out of both of our control, but that doesn't mean that you had to. So I appreciate you coming on.
Oh man, it's fun. It was had a blast this morning doing it, and for those of you guys who got the first episode, I had some time to reflect on some of the things I said that I should have said better. That I'm going to try to do better this time. So we're just gonna make it a little more fun this time.
Oh, cool. Well, that's always what it is. You know, when you get to practice, and the show that we do here, it's just a one hit. It's live. Some of the guests that we have a relationship, but some of these guests, I literally meet them 20 minutes before the show, chat it up, done a little research, and go. And whatever live does. It's not pre-recorded. There's not even a delay.
Right. Yeah. And you got to be careful with it because sometimes some of us can say some really stupid things at times. I've seen it, but it is what it is.
Right. So, so for everybody's listening, man, I appreciate you guys. And if you were on this morning, you just get a refresher course from there. If you're just coming on or you're watching the replay, we've got a really great show today. The website is not dead. Now, it is dead in the sense of if it used to be long ago that you could put up a website and it could be decent and it could be basically an online brochure and it would still give you something. But fast forward to today, the consumers of today control everything. They know what they want. They have at the tip of their fingers all of your competitors that they are free to move along and go to those people. So that we have to build our websites in a way that it gives people value, makes them understand that we understand what you need. And Keith is he was gracious enough to put it in 9 steps. I'm sure there's a lot more and there's a lot deeper, but he packed it into 9 essential elements of a high converting website. And I'm going to turn it over to Keith and let him kind of give him a little background, what led you to here. And then we'll just jump into that element 1 whenever you're ready.
Beautiful. Well, I'm the president and founder of CustomMarketer.com. A little bit about who we are is we do website design, we do marketing, and really the direction we took is we started as a full-fledged marketing company and really found our passion inside of the website design. And the reason I love websites, and Randall, you had hit on this at the beginning, and I think it's a very good point. People constantly think that websites are dead and that having a great website is something that it isn't as necessary anymore. And the reason that I love building websites and that we love turning the website into the center of marketing is just that. When you're on Facebook or you're doing a post, it's a conversation that you're having. But it's not a static resource that your brand and who you are and your representation of what you do. So the thing about a website, and we're going to jump right in here, but the big part about a website is that you want to make sure that it's done right, because if you're going to do something, do it right. So the first essential element that we always take people through is very simple. It's professional design. And the reason we do that is if you're talking to If you're talking to a company and you go online and you look at their website and you see that it's just lacking excellence, it's lacking that professionalism, it doesn't have that character that just says, hey, I'm serious about what I'm doing, it puts a seed of doubt inside of their mind. Because, you know, if they're going to go to your website and find broken links, or see images that aren't thoroughly thought through, or see content that's just not really there, it's going to put them in a point where it's just not going to measure up. Because at the end of the day, no matter what size business you are, you've got competition, and your competitors are out there putting out their best foot forward. And it's war when you're in business. And if you don't come with your A game, you're essentially putting yourself out of the loop, and you're having to pick up the scraps instead of hitting the really good fruit that's out there in the marketplace and with marketing. And that's one thing that I find is that, you know, I've been to countless websites where it looked like somebody's 13-year-old nephew sat down on a Wix site and just went to town, and they've got GIFs and they've got all these little moving things, and it's just chaos and it's confusing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the way that I like to look at it is Digital Marketer made a great analogy that I just absolutely love. It's marketing is a lot like dating, and it's a lot like getting into a relationship, because at the end of the day, that's really what marketing is you're building a relationship with your network. You're building a relationship with visitors and trying to convince them to like you, and then love you, and then commit to you. And so that's really what the journey on the website is. So if you're going out on a date, you're not going to go out in some ratty t-shirt and torn up jeans and sneakers that you've been mowing the lawn in. No, you're going to go to the Buckle. You're going to buy a nice jeans. You're going to get a nice shirt. You're going to make sure you smell good, get your hair cut. You know, you're going to do everything you can to impress that person so that you can progress the relationship. And why would that be any different with your website? So the first element to me is a professional design, just making sure that things are right. You know, some of the technical standpoints of what I look at. And again, you know, if you happen to know that I'm on your website, beware, because I'm criticizing the hell out of it. It's just who I am. It's what I do. But part of what I look at is I look at like margins. I look at, you know, what's the spacing on the site? What's it look like? How's it flow? What are the images congruent? Do they make sense? Are you really speaking to the right people? So that's kind of the big overview.
Right. You know, I had to add one other thing, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for
it. Gene Simmons wrote a book called Me Inc. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've heard the book, you got a chance to read it, but there, you know, in the very beginning of the book, one of the things that he has to get over is people's mindset that people judge other people. He's like, get over it. People judge people. You do as well. So if you don't believe that someone to judge you, or you don't want somebody to judge you, we don't live in utopia. That's a fact.
Oh, and if you don't want people to judge you, get out of business.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you get out of business. So whether you like it or not, and whether we know it or not, we all judge and we get judged. So if you know that going into it, then why not, like you said, let's put this best foot forward and give the best design that reflects what you want. I mean, if you want a bad design, well, then there you go.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And if you want to attract people that are going to be okay with the fact that you're not putting out your best foot forward, that's really what you're going to get, and you're going to be okay with it. So,
right.
All right. So, and by the way, we learned this in the first one, so you guys are actually getting a little bit extra here, but element 9 is the best. I saved the very, very best, my absolute favorite one for the end. So you got to make sure to stay on through the whole video, because it gets really good at the end, and we're going to drop all the big bombs on you and everything we're leading up to. So the second element that I want to talk about is development. When you're talking about website development, that has a lot to do with like your servers. It has to do with how fast your website's loading. And another thing it does is it talks about your site structure. Site structure gets really important when you're dealing in search engine optimization and how Google's reading your site and how things are looking. But your site structure is essentially what you're doing is you're saying, okay, you have your homepage where everybody comes, and then you're saying this next primary product is the second most important thing on my website. And in all actuality, it's the first, because your homepage on your website is nothing more than a magazine cover. I mean, it's flashy, it's poppy, it's got big words, it's got lots of cool images. And so what it does is it drives people inside of the magazine into the different parts. And so when you're setting up your site, the site structure, the hierarchy is going to be important on how well it performs, how it flows, how it works, and then making sure that it's loading fast. There's a couple tools that we use for this. Google Site Speed Test is by far hands down the best, because Google's going to tell you right there, hey, you've got too much extra code. You've got, your site's not loading fast enough. Your images are too big and it's compressed or whatever. And it's going to give you some very, very technical, geeky jargon that you got to try to decipher, or you have a professional help you with it, because it gets really complex at that time. So making sure you have clean development on your site. And the reason that's important is just consistency. You want your site to load and I'd say worst case, it needs to load in under 3 seconds. But if you can get it under a second, which you can with like CDNs or content delivery networks, it's a great thing to do. It gets kind of time consuming and a little difficult when you're updating the site, but it's important. But it's just the consistency, that it's always there, that it's always working. Because when you have a consistent website, it breeds consistency with your audience. They start to see that. They start to trust what you're doing. And it's little acts of trust that build somebody to get to the point of going, hey, look, you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about. Because they may not be looking at it going, well, you know what, if their margins are off on their website, I'm not signing up for their services at all. They're not doing that. But something inside of them just looks at it and goes, something doesn't feel right. And it's not that you're doing something wrong or bad, but in their brain, they're dissecting it subconsciously, and they're looking at it going, yeah, something's just not quite lining up. And so, having that clean development, that clean that consistency and speed, and how your site's loading and performing is I think is a very crucial element.
Because it only has to go to space and back in under 3 seconds.
Right. Yeah. All the way around the world.
Yeah, all the way around the world, through space, come back on your phone in the middle of nowhere before you lose your attention span.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're not on Wi-Fi, I mean, yeah, it's a completely different story at that point. Exactly. So element number 3 is what we call intuitive user interface. So intuitive user interface is when you're building anything. I mean, whether you're doing a Facebook ad or whatever it is, but especially when you're building a website, you don't want to just have a site and then say, you know what, let's just throw in a bunch of contact buttons and forms and hope somebody fills it out. You're taking them down a strategic path. You're taking them on a journey with you. The way that I like to put this is, when you're putting together your website, it's nothing more than a sales pitch. It's your chance to be one-on-one with thousands and thousands of people at a time, just face-to-face with them and speak directly to that person. And so with that, you've got to be thinking, you've got to be looking at it going, once we get them here, what is the goal? How do we want to connect with them? What do we want to do? Where do we want to take them? And once you figure that out, you start directing people that direction on your website. And, it may feel a little static. It may feel a little redundant, but at the end of the day, if you use round numbers, let's say you're getting 1,000 visitors a day and you're getting no one to opt in. If you change how your website works and the interface and how it's performing and what it's doing to somebody, or where it's taking your visitors, you've got nothing to lose, because it's already there. So, one thing that I always like to tell people is, get out there and just try some different things, play around with it, see what happens, because, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. You just, it's what works. But in that intuitive user interface, we really take people through our unique way of looking at a funnel. So the first thing we always want to do is we want to address the problem. What is it that's broken? What is it that's not working? Or the issue that your audience is having. So, if it's a chiropractor, what's the pain that you want to help them address? And then from there, the next thing you want to do is you want to show them the solution. And you want to prove that you're the solution and that it's worth it to address the situation and not just let it go. And then from there, it's going to be that they want to use you for the situation and not go to your competitor. Now, where most people miss it, a lot of people do well with saying, okay, you know what, here's the problem, here's the solution. But then right from there, it's jump to sign up, get started today, enroll online, do this, do that, as opposed to, you know what, let's just connect. Let's get everybody in arm's reach. Let's build this relationship. Let's make it so that when people are talking, that when we're trying to reach out to them by sending them an email or going live on Facebook or putting out a YouTube video or whatever it is, then we know that we can connect with them and we can touch them and get in front of them. Because that's when you can really start to market to people, is when you can connect with them. So to me, the website is just as important. You know, the number one objective and goal for me is every visitor that comes, we want to connect them. Connection to me is just as important as conversion, because a conversion doesn't happen without a connection. So
yeah. You know what, right? Yeah, no, it's interesting to say that, you know, and you think about it, it's in our daily lives. Like you use the, you know, the relationship example. I remember when our family, we moved back from England and here to Texas. So, you know, you could imagine the big, the British accent, right? To the South. You know, I was very insecure because I had a slight accent, and I didn't know anyone. And the only thing that I did was I took a magnet to school with me, because, you know, who doesn't like magnets when they're in the 3rd grade and they're a boy, right? Right. So my best friend, Bruce Ely, the guy who said, and we're still friends to this day, well, it all started off of his interest in magnets. And I brought the magnet to school because I knew that I needed to meet friends. And I took a magnet to school and I said, well, if somebody's interested in magnets, that's going to be my friend. And I tell you, that was 45 years ago, and still from a magnet. And it's funny that they call it a lead magnet. A lead magnet. Absolutely. Yeah. We hadn't even gotten to exactly what it's called, but that's exactly it, to the T. It's called a lead magnet. And, you know, the simple definition of it for somebody who may not know is easy. You're putting together something of value in exchange for their email address. So you're giving them something to connect with them and saying, you know, here's what it is. Here's what we have to offer. And if you like it, then download it. And it's very effective. I mean, we've built, that's what we build our list off of, is lead magnets and working with that stuff. So, but that's part of the intuitive use, right? The real words there. The intuitive user interface is thinking through that, thinking, what's my connection strategy? How do I want to connect with them? What do I want to do? And then, you know, from there, it's watching your analytics and starting to determine what your audience is looking for, and being and starting to think through that. So, which then takes us to our 4th element, which is knowing your audience. This is by far one of the big keys. And again, all of these things are important. You know, the way that I like to look at this is very simple. There's not one thing on here, on this list of 9, that is going to absolutely just revolutionize and transform your website and your marketing. But without all of them, each of them on their own, they each hold a very important key inside of what you're doing. It's like an algorithm. It's, you know, you've got to have a good combination of all of it. Right. Because if not, you know, if you just show up on a website and it's just a lead magnet, it's not going to work. You're not giving them anything. So just keep that in mind. We're taking you through steps and a process to be able to put together a formula that starts to convert. And so the 4th element is knowing your audience, and that's creating the need and then meeting the need, knowing who they are, knowing what they like, knowing what they want to do. One of the things that I have on here, when you're getting to know your audience, don't speak about what you have to offer. Nobody cares about you. They're not going to your website to find out about you. They don't give a crap about you. Amen. They care about them. They care about, what are you doing for them? What's the value that you're going to provide to them? What problem are you going to solve for them? And then once you figure that out, meet that need. Give them what they're looking for. That's the way you convert clients. You don't convert clients by trying to sell them something that you may know as an expert to go, this is really what you're trying to achieve, but that's not what they're looking for. So sometimes you've got to walk them down a path. You've got to take them down a journey that starts with what they're looking for right now. Because let's face it, no matter how many times you talk to somebody, no matter how much of an expert you are, most people who talk to you are going to hear what you have to say and go, you know what? Yeah, you're wrong. I want what I want, and I'm going to get what I want, no matter, regardless of what you have to say. And so that's part of it, is connecting with them and then
and then understanding what they're looking for, and then give them what they're looking for. Don't try to convince them to go a different way. So, but knowing your audience is important. So once you get to know your audience, it leads you to element 5, which is riveting content. I love the word riveting. It's my big word of the day, even though it's not a real big word. But when you're looking at content is one of the things. It's the thing that converts. Videos convert incredibly well, and the reason they convert incredibly well is because they're full of content. And so content is king. Content is, at the end of the day, you can have a website with nothing on it except for words, and it can do way better than having a website that has nothing more than images, just hands down. And the thing that I like to remind my team is, when you're writing content, headlines grab, but content converts. So when you're writing something, you're looking at it going, what's my headline? Again, it's like the magazine. What's the headline? What is it? What are the 9 essential elements for a high converting website? Something that's going to grab their attention. That's making, something like that. What is it that's going to grab their attention and make them go, yeah, I want to see what this is about. I want to understand this more. And then from there, once you've gotten their attention with the headline, you write the content under it to be able to reinforce what you're talking about. But the content under it is what converts. And so when I'm doing like website reviews or going through our websites that we're doing for clients, I like to do what I call a scroll test, where you just start at the top and you scroll down, you look at your headlines, and then you grab it and you go, is this going to make somebody, I try to put myself in the consumer's shoes or the visitor's shoes and go, is this something that's going to make me stop scrolling and actually pay attention to what's being said and what's happening. Now, a little caveat outside of this is one thing that you have to keep in mind, and this may be, I'm going to save that little caveat for element 8 because it makes a lot more sense there. So we'll jump into that. It's my little addition in episode 2 here.
Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. So 2.0, right. So, but writing content, getting engaged, being emotional, writing stuff that, don't be afraid to be a little ballsy when you're writing your content to people, because as much as we're trying to be professionals, you're dealing with real people. One of the things that I always like to keep in mind, you're never in B2C or B2B, you're always in person to person. And that at the end of the day is all that matters. When you're writing your content, when you're talking to people, it's not about the level of the company or the audience. It's not about the dollar figure or the even the client avatar. It's understanding the individual that's reading your content and being able to connect with them and put yourself in their shoes and be able to empathize and relate to what they're going through and understand what they're going through. Again, that pain, that problem, that issue that they're having. And then being able to provide a real solution and be able to back it up and show it by having testimonials, by having results. If you have visual cues that you can put in that actually shows your product, you can do really well with that as well. So that's something with the content. Again, one thing that I have that I always try to reinforce is when you're looking at your content, get real testimonials. Testimonials are huge. They go a long way. And, I've read the statistic that it was 74% of people actually think that testimonials are fake. But those 74% still read your testimonials and still thought about what other people said. Right. So, yeah. And there's things that you can do like video testimonials. There's some really cool software out there now where you can send a link to somebody. They can record a testimonial on their phone with a video and then upload it right into Google and right onto your website. I mean, there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with testimonials. And what it is, it's social proof. You're proving that you're not just talking about what you're doing, but you're showing. You've got real life examples of people and clients that are going, hey, look, these guys are real. They're legit. Here's what they've done. Here's how they've helped. So
you know who does the best job at doing that to me? He's on YouTube. You've been on YouTube at any amount of time and you've looked at any marketing, you're going to get his ad. And that's Alex Becker.
Oh, yeah.
Alex Becker, what he does is that if you don't know, when you got the pre-roll of YouTube, that's called the pre-roll. And that button that you say skip, that one, that little thing in there, Alex Becker comes on and he has different ones, but he basically says, hey, give me 30 seconds of your time and I'll show you how this college dropout made $250,000 selling this ugly typewriter. And then you're like, okay, I got it. And he actually shows the typewriter, shows the student, and then he shows the actual merchant account that he does. And you're like, okay, I got to know how that guy made $200,000. And you usually stay longer than 30 seconds. And then he invites you to his webinar for free.
Right. Yeah. And it takes you down the funnel. I mean, he's got a very set direction. But interesting thing about that, Randall, did you know that when you go and watch his webinar, do you know what that webinar is on?
Website.
Exactly. So whoever tells you the websites are dead, I mean, right there, that's exactly what you're doing, is you're taking them to your website to go through a webinar and to go through a funnel and to go through a sequence. So, you know, that's you know, your comment at the beginning, I always get amused by that, because marketers are the people who say it the most. They're like, oh, you don't need a website anymore. I'm like, where are you putting your stuff? You just letting it float around out there on stray URLs on Facebook's website instead of your own?
Yeah. And you know, the funny thing is that those same people are making landing pages, and in essence, what are landing pages?
It's a website. That's that's all it is.
I mean, it's a URL.
Yeah. It's a URL that takes you to a web page, which then essentially makes it a website. So it's the same thing. It's just, you know. Yeah. Everybody wants to be edgy, I guess, is really what it comes down to. So, yeah. All right. Element 6. Our sixth element out of the 9 is enhance your story with images. Images tell a lot, and they play a very vital role. When you get to the point that you can have images that are playing along with your content, that's when you can really start to see some dynamic interaction. You can start to see people really starting to engage on your website. Your bounce rates start to reduce. The time on site goes up, and it really just has it has a very positive effect. Some of the tips that I like that I want to share with the images. First, make sure that you're using good images. With that, don't have images that are pixelated. And pixelation is very simple. It's fuzzy. Make sure it's not fuzzy. Make sure it looks good, and make sure it's not too big, not too small, but something nice. You know, just keep it in something. Right. And what you want to do, and just a little geek speak for those of you who are interested, it's 72 ppi is actually the resolution that you want to save your images on. And then from there, the pixel size, the maximum that you want to go is about 2040 width, because at that point now you've actually covered an entire screen, so you can use the whole background image. So if you're like, I'm going to have this ultra high def image of 70,000 pixels wide, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to bog down your website. And the reason that the 72 ppi works is simple. That's all that the internet can display. It can't display in higher. You're maxed out there. And so when you get into, when you start really getting into deep stuff in that, just make sure your images are done right. There's lots of plugins and stuff that you can do. The next thing is pick images that are relevant to your avatar. So, for example, I've got some farmers and some agricultural. I don't even know but they're in the agricultural industry. So they're providing services for farmers, stuff like that. I'm not going to go onto there and put a bunch of images of big skyscrapers and New York City and this big skyline, because when a farmer goes and looks at that, they're going to look at it and say, this boy doesn't even know me. He doesn't even know what I represent or what I'm all about. So when you're trying to attract a certain audience, you want to use images that they're going to relate to. So, for example, if you're a chiropractor, you want to be putting images of people running, or people active, or people that are in pain or having a hard time getting up, something like that. If you're targeting farmers, you want to use fields. If you're a boutique inner city shop or a coffee shop, you want to use images of millennials or people in that generation that are your target audience. And again, that goes back to knowing your audience. It's knowing who you're talking to, knowing who you're trying to engage with. And then from there, make it relatable, make it something that they can actually look at and they can imagine themselves in. One of the things that I love, this is a little stupid piece of information, but it's very enlightening for marketers. Do you know why Keanu Reeves makes such a good superhero?
Oh man, Randall? That's a great question. I don't know why does he make a good superhero? Because he was good in what's the big film?
The Matrix.
Matrix, yes.
Yeah. But
was he good in any other film?
Oh yeah, John Wick. He was awesome in John Wick. And the reason that they cast him and he does so well with it is because he has no personality. And seriously, that is why he is one of the best action heroes out there, because people can look at him and they can put themselves in his shoes, because he doesn't have this overbearing personality that makes you go, oh, I could never be like that. I mean, all of us can talk monotone and, pretend like and have two facial expressions. I mean, that's really all the guy's got going. But but the thing that I love about that is it makes you think, when you're getting into the imagery and you're starting to figure out how are you going to connect with people, understanding that the images that you're using, people are going to try to relate it to themselves, because again, everything on your website has to do with them. It has nothing to do with you. And so they're looking at it going, how's this going to relate to me? How do I fit into this? Am I that family that's in this picture buying a new house? Am I this guy who's now not in pain? Or, they're trying to put themselves in those images. So keep that in mind. You want to make it relatable and something that makes sense to them and their story.
Right. Hey, I had to throw this in because you mentioned an actor. Sean Penn is the best actor, just so you know. Sean Penn. Have you seen any of Sean Penn's movies? Sam I Am, Platoon.
I honestly, I've seen Platoon. I've seen that.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You did. I didn't get a rise out of you on that one. It's like,
no,
like
No, not really. Yeah. I am a deep level of geek. I work on websites. I'm a deep level of geek. You want to get into Star Wars? We can have conversations for hours and hours. But
I'm more of a Spaceballs guy.
It was great. Pizza the Hut.
yeah. I see. So you're on 7. Sorry.
Yep, so right. So element 7 is make your website an experience. And what I mean by making your website an experience is this: you want to grab attention with CSS effects, and CSS effects are they're little snippets of HTML code that you put into your website that causes images to move or causes text to kind of fall in behind itself. This is something that's become much more readily available, where before, now if you even have a Wix site or a GoDaddy site, you can put in the animations, you can make it work, where before you really had to have kind of a top level senior coder to be able to make that stuff work. It's become a lot more easy to do and a lot more relevant. But the problem is with it being more accessible and easier, people have just gone crazy with it, where, like you go to a website and it almost looks blank. And then all of a sudden it's like this big avalanche of assets just fall on top of you. And you're just like, you get anxiety. You're just like looking around like, what else is going to hit me in the head while I'm sitting here reading this thing? Right. And you've got to be careful with it, though. So someone like me, I've got ADD. And if I'm sitting there on a site and I'm seeing all this stuff moving, I'm not reading your content. I'm watching moving things. I'm like, ooh, something shiny there. Ooh, something shiny. So you've got to be careful and be tasteful with it and use it for what it's. The best way to use it is to make it so that it accentuates what you're trying to say. So you move something in when you want them to read it. And then if you want to keep them there, don't let anything else move around it, because the more things are moving, or if you have GIFs or you have animations going on your website, it's distracting their attention from the content that's going to convert them. So being cognizant of that, use it wisely, use it smart, but make it an experience. Make it something where when it comes in, they look at it and they're like, oh, that's cool. What is this? And now they're engaged because you've captured their attention. But instead of trying to capture their attention over and over and over and over again, you've captured their attention and now they're reading it, and you keep their attention until they're ready to move. And then you try to capture their attention again in the next frame.
Right.
The next thing on with making your website an experience is sexy buttons. That's one thing that I love. I always tell my team, I want sexy buttons. I want buttons that just pop. I want them to, I want people to go to the website and just kind of hover over the buttons, go, hey, that's fun, and do cool things. Because what happens is when they see that, inevitably they're at that point, they're just looking. They're like, okay, well, these are cool buttons and I can't wait to click something. And a lot of times, like, we get embarrassed or ashamed that we're asking for a sale or whatever, that we're asking for a commitment. And so we hide the buttons, but that's really the point of it. The visitors are there to make a decision and to take an action. That's why they showed up on your website. That's why they're looking into your stuff, is because they are interested in seeing what you have. Don't be afraid to move them on that path. One thing that, though, when you're looking at the buttons, though, when you start getting really creative and you start having fun with them, the one thing you got to be careful of is not to put them everywhere. Really limit what you're doing. Make sure that when you're moving people, that you're doing it strategically and not just putting a bunch of stuff on there so it feels like a clickbait website where if they click anything, it's going to just take them to some random page. Be very deliberate, be very intentional. And that way, when the buttons are there, it's going to mean something more. It's going to pop out to them, but it's going to engage them on a deeper level because now it's capturing their attention. So, like on my website, we use our brand colors are, well, I can 0099cc and 3A3A3A. So it's a light blue and a slate gray. My button colors are pink, and they like jump out at you, and like you scroll, you see them, you're like, whoa, that's a lot of pink there. But what happens is now their attention's grabbed to that button, and it works. I've tested it with using the same colors, using theme colors, stuff like that. And what you find is that the more you don't want to be obnoxious with it. It's got to be tasteful. It's got to match. It needs to have some tact to it. But the more that you can make your buttons sexy, the more it's going to engage people. So, and then another thing is create simple yet elegant designs. A lot of white space. White space now is what people are really going back to, a big open feel, where they don't feel like they're being constantly cluttered by the website or being enclosed or captured by it. So that's element 7. Again, make your website an experience, which moves us to element 8. You have anything you would like to add yet at this point, Randall?
I got to tell the popsicle story.
Go for it. I love the popsicle story. It's one of my favorites now.
It was mine too. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, I have to go to this place. We were talking about yesterday. Or this morning, seems like yesterday already. I was listening to a podcast, and they are talking about we're talking about experiences, and people build experiences in hotels and they build experiences in their restaurants. Well, I mean, kind of what we're talking about here is build a digital experience on your site. But this place, it's a hotel in Florida where they have they cater to families, mostly kids. And the pool is a main theme for any kid. If you tell them you got a pool, that's it. So, but most hotels knew that as well. So they went the extra mile, and they created a popsicle phone. What it did is kids could go over and pick up this popsicle phone and call and order free popsicles. And the hotel would send out a maitre d' who was dressed in a full tuxedo to deliver it on a silver platter to the kids. I thought, wow, how cool is that? I know I would be calling the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's like the thing I love about that is that when you start to really develop that and you find something that works and you're making it an experience, and I think that's what most people are missing. It's like they're so focused on the sale that they're missing all the fun stuff that they can be doing with their audience, the engagements that they can be getting, the fans that they can be building, because they're so busy looking at this end result of how many leads. But the happier your audience is, the more they like you, the more that they want to hear from you, the more of a wow factor you can give them, the more they're going to keep coming back, and the more people you're going to convert over time. And really, that's it. At the end of the day, is how many people can you convert, but not how many people can you convert right now, but how many people can you convert right now, tomorrow, a month from now, a year from now, and longevity.
And keep on coming back if you have it. It's not just a transactional base, but keep on coming back too.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So now Element 8 gets in, takes a little bit of a different direction. So now at this point, we've worked through design. We've talked about how your site's performing. We've looked at making an experience, having your images, good content, knowing who you're talking to, and really making it something that's cool. The way that you do that and the way that you really make that work is Element 8. You track, you analyze, you optimize, you repeat. You track, you analyze, you optimize, you repeat. So with that, this is where I believe most people fail in websites. And because what happens is they make a website and they just expect for it to magically just convert. And I have a website. The world should know me now, and people should just be flocking to me and finding out. And that's not how it works. It takes time to be able to track what kind of traffic you have, and then look at it and analyze it. And so some of the tools that we use for this is Google Analytics is huge. I mean, it's great. Best analytics tool out there, and it's free, which you can't beat. We use Crazy Egg for our heat mapping. And if you don't know what heat mapping is, it's a really cool tool that it shows me I could have 1,000 visitors, and it's going to show me who clicked where. And it's going to show me how many different people clicked on the different areas. And then it's going to show me, like, if I have a pop-up, if it's frustrating people. It's even got like aggravated clicks where people are clicking it multiple times and getting aggravated because it's not performing right or working right. It will show you the aggravation clicks on there. And then it shows you how long somebody's staying on your site, how far they're scrolling down. It's a great way to do it. Now, the one thing that this has that absolutely freaked me out the first time I saw it, but it made me just almost scrap my whole website, and I'm good at what I do. But it actually records a user going through and using your website. And that is one of the most eye-opening experiences. When you see somebody else using your website, it makes you take a step back and really put yourself in their shoes, and you'll see them scroll down, skip a bunch of content, go back up, go around, look at the images, and then click on different things. And it helps put you inside of their mind of going, what are they trying to find? And when they find it, they start highlighting it, and then they wait. So it's a really cool tool to be able to look at it and start to figure out, okay, here's what people are looking at. Here's what they're clicking on. Because what I found is this, within the last couple of weeks, this is something that it's kind of breaking the standard of what websites are, and I think it's a direction that I know that I'm definitely moving towards. But if you look at a lot of the really big websites that are out there, and not social media websites, and not e-commerce sites, but you look at service-based sites, and you look at one of the guys that I follow really hard is Neil Patel. If you look at Crazy Egg and you look at neilpatel.com, I think he said he's got like 4,000 web pages and 4,000 pages on his site. When you go there, you've got an option to click on 3, and that's it. And I love it because there's so much value and so much good stuff once you get under the hood of that website. It's just not going to let you in until you give an email address. And so it's brilliant. I mean, it's like so frustrating. And that, like, when I signed up for Crazy Egg, it was the same way. It wasn't like, hey, here's pricing, check out pricing. It was, hey, 30-day free trial. Well, where can I? And then you start Googling, and it's like, nope, 30-day free trial. And it kind of locks you into that place of, look, if you're serious, here's what it is. And it didn't get very elaborate. But the thing that I love about it is, like, the more that I'm watching heat mapping and the more I'm watching analytics, what's happening, people are skipping around, and they're not. And a lot of the stuff that we put on our websites is what we think people care about, but it's not really it. It's what we care about and what we like. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we like. It doesn't matter how well we, for me, and that's humbling for me because I'm a designer. So, I'm proud. I'm like, look at my creation. Look at this cool thing that I made. And then I hook it up to the heat map, and everybody thinks it's shit. And, you have to look at it, and you have to scrap it or, start readjusting it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you like it, because you're not building your website for you, you're building it for your audience. You're building it for people that you're trying to connect your services to and what you're trying to give them, because it's your marketing, it's your voice. And so, Google Analytics is a great tool. Crazy Egg heat mapping is another one that I love. A/B split testing is essential. And the thing that I will tell everybody is this. Everybody starts looking at it. They're like, okay, if I want to optimize my website, where do you start? You start at the top. You start at the very first page. You start at the very top, because that's where everybody shows up. That's where you're always going to have the most amount of data, is right there on the front page at the top. Because if you can get them from what's called the fold above that and convince them to start moving around on the site, then you're making some progress. Now you're starting to figure out what people are looking for, what they like, and what they're doing. So you always want to start on the front page. You always want to start at the top and just work your way down. And then from there, you're going to optimize it. You're going to change the content. You're going to change images. You may look at your heat mapping, and like this is something that I had to do. I looked at my heat mapping, and I had this big wide open site at Custom Marketer, and it was ginormous. And I looked at it, and I looked at my heat maps, and I'm like, everybody's falling off because there's too much white space. And so I shrunk it up, and it was like magic. It was like, wow, it worked wonders. And so I don't like it as much, but I love my stats a whole lot more, and I'm very happy with that. So just keep that in mind. It's all about tracking, analyzing, optimizing. And then, the beauty about life is that once you really get the formula down, and I mean, you've got it nailed, you're really converting, everything's going to have change, and you're going to have to do it again. Right. It's just the way it goes.
You know what I like to liken that to is when you see these people who go on American Idol, or what's the new one that Simon Cowell has? Not The Voice. The America's Got Talent, and there was American Idol, right. And they come on and they think they can sing. Like if that was that, and Simon Cowell's like buzzes them and says, "I'm sorry, you can't sing," and they're like, well, "I'm sorry, I know I can sing." Like, well, I'm sorry, but you cannot. I mean, it's like you can believe the market. Which in this case, if you think that Simon Cowell doesn't know when someone can or can't sing, you've been living on a different planet. Right. You can think you can sing, but at that moment, you can't sing. He's not telling you can't sing later. Just at that moment, you can't sing. So it's time to go back and figure out how to sing. If you want to make a living singing, that is.
Right. Right. And the one thing that I tell every single that if I could live off one message and get one message across to every person, it's this. When you start doing this, you're going to suck at it, and it's not going to be good, and you're going to fail, and it's not going to be all that great. And you know what? It's okay. And then you're going to track it. You're going to analyze it. You're going to optimize it, and you're going to repeat it, and it's not going to be as bad the second time. And then you're going to do it again, and then it's going to be okay. And then it's going to be pretty good. And then it gets really good. And then over time, you've started to master what you're doing. So keep that in mind. You're going to go through a period of trial. You're going to go through things that you're going to try that work, that don't work, things that you're just going to fail in it sometimes. And that's beautiful. That's one of the best things that can ever happen, is to try something and it not work, so that you can try it again and you can try something else. Because if the beauty of it is, if you try something and it doesn't work, you now know what not to do. You know that doesn't work. And so you can change it. Which the thing that I love about that is that as you're going through this journey, and as you're discovering what's happening, you get to the pinnacle of it all, which is element 9, and that's finding your voice. Now, to me, when you find your voice, that's when you've really narrowed down your message, and that's when you figure out who you are, the content that works for you, that really resonates with your audience, and it's been split tested, it's been optimized, you've seen it working. But not only that, you stop caring about what other people think, and you stop caring about all the things that you're supposed to do, and you start having a genuine message that really starts to connect with your audience, and that's transparent. and it's content that relates to your business culture. And this is one of the most important things that no one ever talks about. Who you are as a business owner completely directly relates to your company culture, and how you operate and how you run your business. And as you discover that part of your culture of your business, it should directly relate into your message and into your marketing, because that's who you are. And when you can start to develop your voice and your brand and who you are, you're going to attract people who like you, people that it resonates what you do and who you are. They're going to hear it and they're going to go and read it and go, oh my God, this is perfect. And it's just like, it just jumps out at you. And that's the reason why. It's because it resonates with you it resonates with them on a deep level.
Right. So, that's, I agree with that. A couple of elements back, and that ties into this one is, when you're talking about doing video, right? Like we're doing right now, the reason that I like video is because it gives people every element of their senses except for smell. They can hear you, they can see you, and then they could see those expressions that you do that just somebody, the Rocky has this little eyebrow thing. I mean, could you imagine if you never got to see The Rock on the, Dwayne Johnson from Baller, if you don't know, it's giving people, that's why I enjoy doing this type of stuff, right? Because it's just sheer every element of your feelings. You can feel what they're feeling. You can see them, the expressions, and people get a sense of, is that guy BSing me, based on just cues that they can that you can't get when it's a rehearsed, maybe it's a pre-recorded, scripted out, and it just looks like robotic in nature. It's like, we do this. I mean, I say what I say, whatever comes in my mind, I say it.
Right.
And it's my voice.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. And I think I think some of the things that a lot of people miss is, when you're going through your analytics and you're watching stuff and you're really starting to figure out your culture, you're trying to define who you are, you're developing your voice, you're developing your marketing, you're putting together your brand, and you're tying it into your website, and you're turning it into something that's converting people. What you start to find is that, you're going to look at analytics and you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of people who come to your website and don't look, because at the end of the day, you've got to be careful to not be advertising to people who don't need your services or want your services, or don't think that every person is a good fit for you. And again, that's where, to me, that's part of the process of it. If every person that you're talking to, you're not worried about converting, but you're worried about connecting, you're going to get so much further, because they may not want what you're doing right then and there, but they may share something that you did that they liked, that is going to connect with somebody that wants your services right then and there. And then they're going to look back and go, hey, 6 months down the road, then it may be the right time. So, don't be afraid of connecting with people, of taking it, your brand, and developing your and buying into who you are, is really how you start to make a powerful website and marketing message.
Right. I agree, man. And that's I gotta say thank you for being the two-time back-to-back guest of the Think Like a Marketer show, taking time away from your family. Because, when you got 4 kids, I'm sure they're probably standing out that door ready to tear it down.
Well, oh, no, they're probably out there laughing at me. They critique the crap out of me when I get done with the stuff.
So, I appreciate you doing that. So for people who are on, if they wanted to reach you, what would be the best place for them to go?
Believe it or not, it would be my website at custommarketer.com. Yeah. That's it. It's designed to do just that. Custommarketer.com.
So, man, I know we went even longer today, this evening, than we did this morning. I mean, we just had to rehearse, so we got it. And man, I hope everybody out there got a lot of value and see why I brought Keith on. I mean, if you didn't believe him, you could see that he is definitely a nerd, a geek nerd, and his profession. And I'm the same way in what I like doing. I mean, I could talk about it all day long, just like you could. And man, I'm hoping that Facebook gods let us go through this time earlier today.
Yeah, I don't delete it this time.
Today he's like, man, that was just too good. We don't want them to leave here and go to websites. We want them to stay on Facebook, so we're going to delete that whole guy.
Yeah, that explains it. You figured it all out right there.
Yeah. Well, again, hey Keith, again, like I said this morning, the price of anything is the amount of life you're willing to exchange for it. And today you exchanged a lot of time for us, so we appreciate it, and I speak for everybody else as well. And hey, for all of those who are not, and I'm sure there's only a couple of you, 2, 3 maybe, that aren't currently following us on the Think Like a Marketer Facebook page. Hey, I'm always out there searching for guests to come on that give us useful information. And today was performed well. This morning was good, but today I think we got if this recording is the one that makes it, I think it was all worth doing it twice. But I'm always trying to find, new guests. Last week it was, we did the chat bots, messaging. The week before that, we did artificial intelligence, and we got some great guests coming forward. And we've had guests such as Jose Pena, who was in the world's record book for most amount of Instagram followers, 1 million in 30 days. So if you're, like I said, if you're not already following us on the Think Like a Marketer page, do so. And we'll be bringing you more stuff. And I appreciate everybody coming on, and everybody have a great end to your hump day.